afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the FWW365 Podcast. I'm your host, J-Lex. I hope you're all doing well today. Hope you're staying safe and doing everything along those lines. Yesterday's episode was just you getting back into the gym and everything of that nature, or whatever fitness realm you kind of fall under. Today's episode, I wanted to talk about the importance of having a quality health team. It's because it goes beyond just fitness, trainer, things along those lines. I think that it's important that people understand the importance. I don't care what it is that you do in your life, you need a team. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you play an individual sport. I don't care, whatever the case might be. You need a quality team that you can put together that are reliable, that you can go to in the case of whatever ailments or physical or emotional things that you have going on. So I'm not going to bore you anymore. I'm going to get started. First things first, at the top of the mountain, we're going to start with the tree and we're going to work our way down. I'm going to tell you the importance of each and everything along those lines. First things first, find yourself a quality primary care physician or your traditional doctor. The person that you go to when you're having issues, the person that you see usually at the beginning of the year. This is when they get very busy at the offices. People go in because they've got their health insurance resets, so then they get the free annual visit from their primary care doctor. The important thing is, you do that, you see them, you get blood work done, the whole bit. Like, you should go through the entire gamut, get the blood work done, whatever it is you're trying to get tested for. And if you can, depending upon your insurance, get tested for as much as you can. You want to get tested, you want to get your vitamin D levels, especially now during the winter for those who live in the colder weather. You want to definitely check your vitamin D levels. Get your different tests, sexually transmitted diseases, or I think they're common infections now. You know what I'm talking about. So definitely get everything checked out. See where some of the nutrients you might be low on, what you're a little high on, so you can make adjustments in terms of what you're consuming, in terms of supplements, things along those lines. And I think I said in yesterday's episode, don't just go once. Don't just go to the doctor one time a year because, insurance covers it. If you are over the age of 35, you should be seeing your primary care physician at least twice a year, if not 3 times, and getting blood work done, because it's always changing. There's always something that's changing. You don't know if you're allergic to something that you weren't allergic to before. We all go through it. There may be some things that you have to take out of your diet because your body just can't process it anymore. So they can do that with a simple blood test for the most part. So definitely go and see your primary care. Make sure, like I said, over the age of 35, twice a year, minimum. You make time for everything else. Go see the doctor. It's a little prick in the arm. They take about a pint of blood, and you're good. So definitely, first things first, go see your primary care. Make sure you have a good relationship with them too. Make sure they have a good bedside manner. Don't just go in. It's a service. There should be some semblance. When we think of service, we think of, waiters and waitresses, bartenders, things along those lines. Most of these other jobs, a personal trainer, yoga instructor, a surgeon, they're all in some way, shape, or form in the service industry. So if you want to make sure you have a good relationship with them, that they're somebody that's reliable, because they can help you out. Maybe if you don't want to do a visit or something along those lines, hey, I need a script for this or that, for physical therapy, for a mental health professional, etc. And so you want to make sure that you have a good standing relationship with them so that you can help them and they can help you. From there, we'll keep it in the medical field. You want to make sure that you have a quality surgeon you can go to based upon, even though the only time you don't really see surgeons too often unless you have to have a surgery of some kind, you want to make sure you're going to the best. And so if you can develop a relationship with that person, shoulder surgeon, knee, back, etc., you want to make sure that there are a group of people that you can talk to who will basically take care of you, who are best of the best. When it comes to the medical thing, don't try to cut corners or try to, go with somebody because they're a little bit cheaper. No. When you're talking about, there's two things in this world you should not mess with. I don't care about race. I don't care about sexual orientation or anything like that. When it comes to your health and your wealth, you go with the best or the most reputable. I don't care what anybody says to you. Don't fall into the trap of, you got to support this person because they're black or this person because they're, the same nationality as you. No. If that happens to work out, great. Wonderful. You should go to that person. But you should be looking for the absolute best. I don't care if it's primary care, and I'll be speaking on other professions within the kind of the health and fitness and wellness field. But race, sexual orientation, none of that should matter. What should matter is, are they good at their job? If you're going to go see a financial advisor or somebody who's in the stock market, you don't worry yourself with race. You worry yourself with, how can I make more money and how can I keep the money coming in? Period. None of it matters at the end of the day. None of the other stuff matters. That's okay if you want to go to a restaurant or, some item of clothing. But when we're talking about those two big things, health and wealth, you go with the best. So definitely find yourself a very good primary care that you're seeing at least a couple times a year, getting regular blood tests. You also want to make sure you find the best surgeons. Like I said before, you're not going to be seeing them as often unless you have like multiple surgeries or something along those lines. But you find whoever the best is, of the best specialists. Okay, they're going to cost you more money, but you know what? It's worth it. Like I talked about in the first episode, invest in yourself. Period. Your favorite athletes, your favorite singers or entertainers of some kind, they pay for the best. They get the best people to help them in terms of their ability to sing, act, get in shape. I mean, that's a big one for the people in the entertainment industry. They only go with the best. They're not, for the most part, they're not going with, that's the family friend or whatever the case might be. If that happens to work out, cool, but they're going with the absolute best. They're going to pay top dollar, and you should do the same. But I was talking about primary. I'm sorry, I went off topic a little bit. You want to make sure you have a great primary care. You want to make sure you go to the best specialists. You also want to make sure that you have a really good physical therapist. I've worked for a few really good ones over past 10 plus years. I've worked with some pretty good ones, and it's a very important person or group to have in your stable. It's very important, especially if you're somebody who's active. You're going to run into injuries. You're going to run into, pulled hamstring, maybe light things, bad back, things along those lines. And you want to have somebody that you can go to who is really good, reputable. Like I said before, don't worry about the money. Trust me, it's worth every penny. I worked in a physical therapy office for just shy of 12 years before COVID started. And whatever I might have thought about him as a boss, he was phenomenal as a physical therapist. Phenomenal, top notch. I mean, he's known, I think he's, at least in the United States, pretty well known. I know for sure in the Northeast. I mean, people love, other doctors. He has a relationship with other doctors in the tri-state area. They know him in the city, even though he's not based out of the city. Like, a guy like that is great to have at your side, especially if you're playing regular, like, men's leagues or women's leagues, if you're playing semi-pro and, or you're very just active, cycling, running, etc. You want to make sure that you have a very good physical therapist, because I promise you, no matter how careful you think you might be, you're going to get injured. It happens. It could be freak. It could be something you don't see coming. It could be, you were going to the bathroom one night and you stubbed your toe. Next thing you know, like, your foot's inflamed. It doesn't happen overnight, but that might be the thing that triggered whatever the other issues are that you have going on. And the great thing about a physical therapist is they diagnose injuries. The really good ones, it might take them a little bit, they'll be like, whatever, we'll figure out as time goes on. But they will diagnose an injury. They will put a plan together for you. You're not just going in there doing exercises. That's it. One of the things about the physical therapy field is, because insurance is not paying like it used to, because they have if you go to some of these doctor's offices and physical therapy offices and other kind of medical facilities, there's a room where they have people churning out paper during business hours because they are trying to collect from the insurance companies who have become very stingy in terms of how they pay. There's some things related to insurance fraud and things along those lines, so they have to be careful. But you'll see they got a room. They've got people at the front desk, and they're just sending papers in, and they get paid, and they get delayed payments. So they don't get paid for services rendered unless they get paid in cash. So they have to wait at least a month in some cases, at minimum a month. I think it's like 30 days to get paid for something that they did, a month earlier. So you see, so what ends up happening is a lot of these places, they don't spend that much time with patients anymore. They don't spend a lot of time. A lot of the places, not all of them. A lot of places don't spend time with patients anymore. So what do? They just basically, they work with you for a little bit. They kind of know what's going on. They don't really they don't go away from what the original plan was. There's no real time because there's no time for it. They're busy trying to make as much money as they can, which is terrible in some ways. But like I said, the really good ones take their time. They don't just have you go in and do exercises and stim and heat and all that other stuff. No. They make sure that there's a plan in place for you. They make sure that you are getting the best care. More times than not, they usually have like a personal trainer or somebody who's well versed in exercise, personal trainer, etc. And they will make sure that they're not just putting you through a regular program for everybody. And the programs aren't generic for everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't just hand out a sheet and say, all right, go do that. They have somebody who's there with you. It might be a little busy. You might be able to do some things on your own, but there's always somebody around who's going to be able to help you, who's going to be able to make adjustments for you, who's going to show you proper, more effective ways, posture, things along those lines. So a lot of people have, back issues and things along those lines. So you want somebody who's going to show you the proper way of doing the exercises. They might leave to work with another patient because they're bouncing back and forth, but they're always checking on you. They're always making sure that you're good. And so you definitely want a quality physical therapy practice that you can go to, especially if you're a very active person. I mean, most people are going to need it at some point anyway, just because of father time. But you want that practice that you can rely on, and you're going to go there, and it's going to be top-notch service. So definitely, primary care physician. You want to make sure of other specialists that are really good at what they do, and you want to make sure definitely you want a quality physical therapy office, because as we all know, people are living longer and they're more active. And you want to make sure that they are able to take care of you so that you can continue to be active into your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, and beyond. So that's very important. Another important person to have or practice to have that you can go to on a regular basis is a chiropractor. Why is this important? Because 75 to 80% of people in the United States have some semblance of a back issue, primarily lower back. It just is what it is. I often use the analogy of an accordion. So think of an accordion when you first open it up. Just imagine that's your spine, and in each vertebrae of the spine, there's a little bit of like jello, and that's what keeps you essentially tall and erect, and keeps you looking upright. And so what happens over time is that gelatin begins to lose its moisture. So you often hear older people say, like, I feel like I'm getting shorter. Well, they technically are getting shorter, because that gelatin, when you're very young, is abundant. I forget what the technical name is, but essentially think of jello in between each vertebrae, and it's abundant and it's full of moisture. And what happens over time is it begins to lose that moisture. So you start to get this. So what's happening when this is happening? What does this mean? That means that the vertebrae are getting closer together. And in between, I'm trying to think of a way to explain it, but you basically have your spinal cord, and you have nerves that kick out nerve endings all down your back, and they each serve a function. It starts out in the brain and handles most of your voluntary movement. So it sends a signal to your brain. I'm not going to bore you too long with this, but it sends a signal to your brain, and so when it sends a signal to my brain to have my hands do this, move my head, etc. So what happens over time is that begins to, those gelatins start to squeeze down, or they start to lose moisture, and so now you get what's called almost you get narrowing of the spinal column. So that's when a lot of the issues that people have, it tends to be low back. It could be a neck, it could be mid back, but for the most part it's the low back. And so what ends up happening is people running into issues. They have pain, they have like tingling sometimes. You heard of like sciatica, things along those lines. So what's happening is, as that spinal column starts to narrow, those nerves are being put under pressure. And so now sometimes the nerve can be inflamed. And so you'll get like sciatica down the side of your leg. Most people have had it at some point. I'm trying to think of other ones. You get tingling sometimes that will go down, especially if it's in the cervical region, that will go down into your hands. And so you'll almost feel like pins and needles in your hands. Or sometimes you can get like numbness or weakness because a nerve is being impinged. And so what you should be doing is, if you can, find yourself a really good chiropractor, because what they will do is, well, first you should go see your primary care, tell them what's going on, and they'll probably have you go like get an MRI or something like that if they think, originally they would do x-rays, where x-rays aren't as detailed as like an MRI. So they'll probably have you go do an MRI. You got to go through insurance unless you can come out of pocket. And then they'll figure out, okay, this nerve is being impinged, that nerve is being impinged. This is why you're running into these issues. So you can go to physical therapy for that, but a longer term solution is probably a really good chiropractor. I go to one myself. All the years of squatting and heavy lifting and deadlifting, you run into issues. Everybody does. Like I said, 4 out of 5 people have some type of lower back or back issue in general. So definitely a very good chiropractor, because then they'll go in, they'll do an assessment. They'll go in, they'll do an assessment, they'll see what's going on, and then they can put a plan together for you, where you see them 3 times a week, 2 times a week, whatever the case might be, depending upon the severity. And they'll go from there, basically. Some people don't like it because there's a lot, you hear a lot of like cracking, all that other stuff. I get it. It's not the most fun thing in the world, but long term, for the health of your back, if you've ever had a back issue, I've had them. Most people who are going to see this have had them, and they know what I'm talking about. It is excruciating. It is the worst pain you could ever be in. Yeah, I've hurt myself in the gym. I've dropped weights on my feet, like the whole bit. Having lower back pain issues is the worst experience of your life, because you're debilitated. You can't do anything. You can't move. All right. You can have a knee replacement. You can replace a knee. You can do a bunch of other things, but if you've ever had like low back pain or any type of back pain, especially low back pain, it's debilitating. Like you can't move. You don't want people touching you. You don't want to do anything. It's truly, truly excruciating. So I don't wish that upon my worst enemy. And with that being said, you want to make sure that there's a good chiropractor that you can go to once, twice, 3 times a week. You can come out of pocket. You can go through insurance. It's really up to you. Definitely you want to make sure of that. You want to make sure that you're going to somebody who's high quality. If you got to pay for it, that's fine. But very important that you have somebody in your corner like that, because they are going to help you stay active, not be in pain all the time, because there's going to be times where you kind of revert back and you got to start over. Everything along those lines. So the original tree that I kind of started on is the primary care, and then specialists, physical therapists, chiropractors. They're all doctorates anyway. They all have to be doctorates. They seem to have like some kind of issue, but whatever. That's not a big deal. And then you kind of, so I would say I'd say the primary care is tier 1. 1A is your specialist based upon what you need. Tier 2, I would say, is like physical therapists, chiropractors, definitely tier 2. And then tier 3, kind of at the bottom of the rung, is your personal trainer, yoga instructor, group fitness instructor. These are the people who may not have a medical background necessarily, but these are the people that you're going to see more frequently than your primary care or your physical therapist for sure. Your chiropractor might be a little bit different based upon the severity of the issues that you're having, but your group fitness instructor, your yoga instructor, your personal trainer, your strength and conditioning specialist, those are the people that you're going to see on a daily basis. I think I mentioned in the first episode how people think, oh, well, there's stuff on YouTube, so it doesn't really matter. I can just, follow the stuff that's on YouTube, which is perfectly fine to do. There's no issues with that. The only issue that you run into is most people, unless you're educated in it, don't know that there are progressions to be made. People don't know. There are people who will do 225 on a bench and won't go up to 235, and then don't understand why they're not making gains. And yes, there are people who talk about it, and there are people who talk about it, and there are people who, and you can read it online and everything like that, but more times than not, you're going to need somebody who is educated enough to know, okay, there's something called progressive overloading. So basically, it's forcing your body to constantly have to adjust and make changes so that you're progressing forward. If you're doing 135 on the bench all the time, at first your body's going to go, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe this. But after about the fourth or fifth time, it knows I don't have to exert any energy here. This is the same 135 he's been doing, or she's been doing, for the past 2 weeks or so. So that's why it's important to go to somebody who is a little more educated, I should say. It's why it's important to go to somebody who can steer you in the right direction. Now, they're all trainers, physical therapists, chiropractors, and they're all made the same. So really, you're gonna have to feel out who you like, who you don't like. Do you feel like you're constantly making a progression, or you're still doing the same thing over and over again? But very important that you see your strength and conditioning specialist, your personal trainers, your yoga instructors, especially like hot yoga. I've done it in the past. I hope to go back soon to it. Your MMA instructors, I wanted to add them in there. Your combat instructors, boxing instructors, kickboxing, MMA, the other disciplines that there are in combat sports. Those people you're going to have more of a relationship with than you are your primary care, for the most part, unless you already know them, your physical therapist, your chiropractor, because they're going to see you every day. And so if you can, try to get those people in touch with your primary care. One of the things that really kind of surprises me is, and maybe it's because they're in the medical field and they don't think much of what trainers are, but there's no relationship between kind of the people in tier 3 with the people in tier 1. Tier 2 is a little bit different, especially with the physical therapists, because they'll usually have some type of a certified trainer in their office that they can send the patients to work with them. So it's a little bit different. But like the primary cares have no relationships with the trainers. And for any trainer who's out there, definitely, if you can, I've tried to do it. It's not easy. You just got to be persistent. Try to become either friendly or associate with as many different doctors as you can. I've been to a couple of, it was Greenwich Hospital. I've been to, I think I was one of 2 trainers who was in there. I went to a conference for, what is it called now? I'm drawing a blank. It was a conference about knee replacements and other replacements. Now, as a trainer, I didn't necessarily need to be there, but I understood that I needed to find a way to get myself in the door so that I could build a relationship with these people, because they can become a great referral service for you. So I always find it funny that these two, that tier 1 and tier 3, don't really mix in, don't really associate with one another, don't really talk to one another. And I don't fully comprehend why, because that person, if I'm training somebody who's coming to me 3 times a week, I've developed a relationship with them. And I can go to that doctor who he, she, or they are seeing, and I can say, they're having this issue, or there seems to be like their knees bothering them. And I really, it's out of my scope to diagnose anything along those lines. Maybe it's something you can check out. It would make everybody's lives a lot easier. Like I said before, I think it's the fact that they went to medical school and they're up here, and even if you studied in college, exercise science is not seen the same, but there has to be a gap that's filled because the really good trainers are going to build a relationship with those people, and it can, if there's an issue going on, and they can go to, oh yeah, you've got this going on. Well, your trainer actually told me that you had this going on. I've tried to do the same thing with physical therapists as well as chiropractors. And in one case, I had a person who appreciated it. I'm like, I'd like to know what's going on with this person, because you have, obviously, there's HIPAA, even though HIPAA doesn't seem to be a thing anymore, but there seems to be, or I should say, I was able to go in, got permission from the person I was training at the time. Hey, what's going on with their back? Maybe there's something I can do. I think they had some kind of degenerative spine issue or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was. But the physical therapist or the chiropractor appreciated the fact that I took the time to go in, and actually, I actually went into the place and spoke to him for a couple minutes, which he appreciated. You want to build those relationships. You want to make sure that people are talking to each other when it comes to your health. Remember, it's not an individual thing. We're not, even though there's individual sports and even though it's your individual health, you still need a team that is going to help you be the best version of yourself. So it's the same thing with the yoga instructors. Maybe they're not, well versed in all types of exercise and everything along those lines. But you see those people, you talk to them, you have a relationship with them. And if you have a relationship with them, it would make sense that a doctor, a primary care, or a specialist of some kind says, oh, you've known about this for a while. And as long as you can explain, and I'm speaking to the fitness professionals here, as long as you can explain in a proper way what's going on, you've just made yourself more valuable to that doctor, to that specialist, to that physical therapist, to that chiropractor. And they're going to refer business to you. I've had it happen. And I've been doing this a long time. So definitely, for those of you out here, continue taking care of your health and make sure that you have that team around you. You need that team. You can't venture out here on your own. Yeah, I know there are plenty of people out here who don't want to go see a primary care, who don't want to get blood work done. I'm not saying you got to take medication. I get it. I'm not a big med guy myself. But you still have to go and get the blood work done. You still have to go and get things checked out because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't, next, a friend of mine, I just found out recently, suffered a seizure. He's not even 50 yet. Suffered a seizure in his house. And they had to go and, hit him with the defibrillator, he was dead for a couple minutes. You have to continue to take care of your health, and you've got to have a quality team around you. You don't want to wait until you're passed out on your floor and the ambulance is being called and they're having to use a defibrillator at your house in order for you to take your health seriously. I'm not sitting here saying don't have fun. That's what you guys are thinking. Have fun, have a good time, but also have a good team around you. Like I talked about in the first episode. It's so important, so important to take care of your health and to have a team around you that you can go to that is reliable, that you can turn to when things aren't going so great. You obviously nobody wants to get sick. That goes without saying. But it happens. You're getting older. From the day you're born, you're getting older. And especially after 35, the metabolism starts to slow down. Recovery time starts to slow down. All of a sudden, it's taking you longer to recover from an injury and things along those lines, but you want to have a quality team that you can go to that is going to help you recover from an injury or recover from some other ailment that you have. Don't take your health lightly. Like I said in the first episode, I know you guys sit there and you'll spend money on cars and jewelry and shoes and all the external things, and meanwhile internally you're falling apart and you don't even think twice about it. So please get that quality health team. medical team, whatever term you want to use, get a good quality health team around you so that you can take care of yourself, so that you can live a long, prosperous, and happy life, still have a good time, still be out in the streets, but also taking care of yourself. Take care, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.